you very much. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to today's Meet Your Future event. My name is Michelle Wheeler. I'm not the person on screen currently. I work for Greater Manchester Combined Authority. I'm part of the Bridge team. Today we've got a great session from Johnny and Holly, who work at Aldermore Group as part of Talk Money Week. So what we're trying to do with these events that are happening at the moment is enable more young people like you to meet with and have meaningful conversations with employers while experiencing different workplaces. Over the past 12 months, we've been speaking with young people from all 10 boroughs of Greater Manchester to find out how you're feeling, how you feel you should be supported now and into your future, and we've learned a lot. We've developed a suite of information, resources and services that are there to help you, which can be found on gmax.co.uk. Many of you, many of you will no doubt be familiar with GMAX at the moment, but you can speak to your teachers to find out more. Through this academic year, you'll also be able to join sessions and chat with Greater Manchester and national employers about growth sectors across the region, different pathways, and a vast array of careers opportunities available to you in the future right here in Greater Manchester. So as I said, today we've got Aldermore Group. We've got Johnny, who is Talent and Early Careers Partner at Aldermore Group, and Holly Edwards, Inclusion and Wellbeing Partner. Hopefully this session will inform and inspire you, give you some more ideas about your future in Greater Manchester. We will be stopping for questions. Well, Johnny and Holly will be stopping for some questions and to ask you your opinions throughout the session. So please make use of the Q&A box and chip in when you're asked to. If you've got other questions towards the end, then we'll have a Q&A, a bit of time left over for Q&A at the end. But without further ado, Jonathan Carberry.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session in regards to making money work for you. Like Michelle said, my name is Johnny Carberry and I am Talent and Early Careers Partner at the Aldermore Group. And during the next hour, we're going to look at some key financial areas in regards to making money work for you. We're going to do this by introducing to an avatar called Adam, and we're going to follow Adam as he goes to university, takes his first job, and makes his initial steps into the world of employment and setting up his own business. Before we do that, I think it'd be good to formally introduce ourselves a little bit more detail. So as I said, my name is Johnny, and a little bit of my career background before I hand over to my colleague Holly. So I've worked in financial services now for around 19 years across a number of different roles. I began my career helping people buy their first home and their second home and move through the housing ladder, ensuring they could protect it themselves for any unforeseen events. I then moved into a training role, helping new employees learn their jobs so they could too advise customers. Now, most recently, I help Aldermore attract talented people to come and join us and provide them with opportunities to grow and progress their careers within the group. At school, I was very passionate about art, English and history, and later went on to study English University. and after leaving uni, I've taken a number of other qualifications in banking and human resources. Now, as we were setting up this session, we thought we'd try and give you one career tip each. Now, mine is, it's really important to find what you're passionate about and follow a career path that helps you live that passion every day. So that's my tip for you. Holly, would you like to come in and share a little about your background and yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Johnny. Nice to be part of this session today. So my name's Holly, like I said, inclusion and wellbeing partner at Aldermore. So it's fair to say that I've taken a fairly non-traditional career path to date. I have to admit this, I didn't really like school. So I was keen to leave as quickly as possible. And I joined what was called a youth training scheme, a YTS, which was a job training scheme similar to the apprenticeships of today, which was a couple of years long. Around 10 years later, I actually went to university. I kind of did it the other way around. Whilst I was in full-time employment though, which was pretty full on. I studied business studies. I even went back again a few years later to do some further qualifications. And over the past 30 years of my career, I've held various roles, from legal secretary to recruitment consultant, a number of different training roles as well, mostly in law firms, but more recently in financial services. Which kind of brings me to the part that I play today. So at Aldermore, very varied role. I help people bring together our approach on diversity and inclusion and equality, but also raise awareness and provide support on many areas of well-being, because there is that inextricable link to both of those things, which is something we're going to be talking about today, your health and well-being. So I'll pass back over to Johnny.
Thank you, Holly. So before we get into the session in earnest, I thought it'd be useful to share some background on the Aldermore Group as an employer. Now, in regards to business, every business needs a reason to exist. Now, at the Aldermore Group, our reason is backing people to fulfil life's hopes and dreams. That's our central purpose, and that's what we aim to do day in, day out. And this can be through a number of ways, really. It could be buying a home or financing their first motor vehicle, starting or growing their business, or saving for the future. Now, all of these goals are made possible by our team having shared values. And what you can see on the screen there is that we aim to be nimble, lean and strong, really provide a compelling customer experience and help create transformative partnerships and communities. Now, to reach these values, as colleagues, we make promises to each other and we also make promises to our customers. Now, these promises help us make sure that our values come to life and we can achieve our central purpose. You can see our promises there on the outer yellow ring of the logo on the screen. So to be deeply invested, to value our differences, to build trust and not territory, to always do the right thing, to stay curious and to have courage. One thing I set in the pre-course work to have you thinking about was around starting your own business. And one of the most important things when you're starting your business is to understand the reason that business exists. So over the next hour or so and post this session, and please feel free to think about this when we come to the Q&A at the end, is if you were starting your own business today, what would be your central purpose and message? Because that is ultimately going to be how your business becomes very successful. So that's a little bit of background on the Aldermore Group and myself and Holly. Now we're going to go into the session in earnest now in regards to money management. And like I said, we're going to introduce you to an avatar called Adam. Adam's currently a university student. So Adam's going to find himself in some pretty tricky positions over the next 50 minutes or so. So we're going to need your help and your input in regards to making some key decisions for him. To do this, we're going to use the chat functionality. So as I'm talking, I'm going to pause at brief points and propose a question or a task to you as a group. You can either comment directly yourself if you're registered and logged in as an individual user, or if you are part of a classroom watching this session, please do feel free to feed answers through to your teacher or tutor to add the comments on your behalf. So let's get into it and let's meet Adam. So meet Adam, a 21-year-old university student studying website design. He needs to make a little bit of extra money to support his accommodation costs, so he's decided to set up an online site selling retro football shirts. Over the course of this session, we're going to follow his journey and help him deal with some key financial decisions he may face along the way. So we're going to pause for our first question now. So if you were in Adam's shoes, starting your first small business, in this instance, it's selling items online, what kind of things would you be thinking about? So you're going to start your first small business. Now, it might be something akin to what Adam's trying to do here. Sell items online by setting up a website or through eBay or Amazon or Shpock, whatever it might be. What are the kind of things you're thinking about when you're starting a small business? I'm going to pause for 60 seconds and just see if we have some comments coming through. And Holly, if any come through, can you just let me know and we'll pause to just review them?
Absolutely.
So don't be shy, please do. Nothing is a silly answer. We're keen to hear your thoughts on this first question before we start off on Adam's journey. When you start a new business, one of the most important things is around that pre-thought, that planning, and considering the steps that you need to take. So this is a really key, important question. We've
had one comment come through, Johnny, and I suppose this could be later down the line, but somebody's put competitors.
Do you know what? That's a fantastic answer. We're going to see actually this issue come up later on in Adam's journey. The competitive market in which you're entering into is really important to consider, both in your geographic location, but also in your market sector as well. Anything else coming through, Holly, before we move on?
Nothing. Oh yeah, one's just come through. We're hearing from North Chadderton here saying demand for the product, gaps in the market, expertise in the area, number of different things.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic response as well, and there's clearly some research done from the pre-brief that I've set out there. So the issue of supply and demand in particular is going to be something we're going to focus on shortly. So I'm conscious of time, so thank you for those responses, and please do keep them coming throughout the session, but we're going to move on and follow Adam's next step. So let's see what Adam's thinking now. So I used to think that selling someone a shirt was just a simple transaction, but over the first few weeks of my website going live, I've learned it's actually part of the larger economy. So let's look at our first task. So Adam has 8 rare football shirts from the 1980s, and he's received 3 orders in 15 minutes of listing them online. It's clearly a popular item and it's selling well. So what should he do with the remaining 5? I'm going to give you some options to consider. So should he A, rise the price of this very rare and attractive shirt? B, reduce the price of the shirt? C, sell them all and collect the names of those customers who didn't get one? So once again, we'll welcome responses in the comments box, and I'll just read the question to you again. So Adam has 8 rare football shirts from the 1980s and has received 3 orders in 15 minutes of listing them online. It's clearly a popular item and selling well. What should you do with the remaining 5? So A, raise the price of the shirt, B, reduce the price of the shirt, or C, sell them all and collect the names of the customers who didn't get one. Holly, if you can give me a flavour in 60 seconds or so in regards to the most popular choice that seems to be coming through from the group.
Will do. See what comes through. I'm wondering what I do actually here.
The 1980s may seem a long time ago to some people on this on this session, but unfortunately for me and Holly, it's not that long ago. So A, B, or C?
We've got an A.
Okay, so raise the price of the shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it so far.
Okay. So even if you're not putting comments in, please do discuss it if you're within a classroom setting or a group setting, because the value is very much in the conversation. Well, let's have a look at the response and let's see what we should do. So let's see. So if you selected answer C, then you're putting your faith in what's called the law of supply and demand, and this links to one of the comments to our very first question right at the outset of Adam's journey. So what is the law of supply and demand? So it's a theory that explains the relationship between buyers and sellers in a marketplace. So low supply of an item, in this instance of those rare shirts, that is in high demand will push prices up. High supply of an item in low demand will drive prices down. So Adam's approach of taking the names and selling all the shirts is a sensible approach because then he's got customers to reach back out to. in regards to restocking those shirts and really thinking about the price. So Adam's thinking, he thinks he's made the right decision because it just didn't feel right to raise the price. But it's also got him considering, I wonder what could make prices go down in the future then, based on the law of supply and demand. Let's see how we progress. So let's pause for a second and think. So it's been going well for Adam over the last few months. However, he's discovered a new company who started recreating retro shirts. We spoke about competitors in one of the comments earlier on. How could this situation impact him based on the law of supply and demand? So I'll pause again briefly just to see if anyone can add some commentary to this. And this is quite a tricky question. So you've got a new competitor entering the market here. Now they're not selling original shirts, they're recreating retro shirts. Remember, Adam's selling an original product, harder to store. So how could this situation impact him based on the law of supply and demand? Give a brief pause again and see if any comments come through, but like I say, the value's in the discussion. This session is also being recorded and will be available afterwards, so it's something you can build out and discuss with your group as well and your class. Any comments coming through, Holly?
No, not so far.
Okay. Well, let's look at how this could unfold. So a new supplier enters the market. Now the shirts we said aren't originals, but are selling at a much lower cost. As they're not trying to source the old shirts, they're able to ensure availability of stock, which is interesting when we consider what we've just discussed in regards to supply and demand. And this is now looking to fulfill customer requirements. There's no short supply. Adam's had to lower his prices on some of his rarest and most popular shirts. However, these shirts are now a little easier to source due to the introduction of the new supplier, recreating a previously limited stock. And this is pretty common in the goods and services market. This is the part of the economy that involves buying items, i.e. goods, and paying people to do things for you, like fixing your car, services. So I'll pause again for you to chat through within your groups. Can you think of any other situations that would either make prices rise or fall? And that's what I want to leave with you really, and just because it's going to need a little bit of deep thought and critical thinking. So based on the scenario we've just discussed here, those 4 stages, can you think of any other situations that would either make prices rise or fall? Okay, you can pick that one up after the session. So things are really starting to go well for Adam now. He's earning some extra money alongside his university studies, and it's really helping him support his accommodation costs. However, it's a real shame that sales are starting to fall through the introduction of a competitor. He'd taken a little bit of help a few months ago. Joe had been working 15 hours each month listing the shirts to help him keep up. What should he do now that prices of sales are starting to fall? So what do we advise Adam to do in regards to his part-time friend who he's took on board to help him? Should he reduce Joe's working hours, reduce Joe's pay, or let Joe go? What would you do? You've started a new business quite recently. It's been successful, Joe good promise. A competitor's entered the market and your sales have started to drop. You took on some extra help, friend in Joe. What do we do in regards to Joe's situation? Reduce his working hours, reduce his pay, or let Joe go? This is the first of really kind of tough decisions. It is a business decision. People may also see it as a moral decision in regards to Joe's situation. Let's have a look. So unfortunately, in this situation, all could apply, and you may need to consider all of these options. Ultimately, less demand for our business means you're less able to offer or supply jobs. Now, labour, as we would define the work people do to create goods and services, is also impacted by supply and demand. We can't keep labour, in this instance Joe, if the demand is simply not there. So we're going to have to break some bad news. Let's see how that went. This is interesting because telling Joe didn't go as planned. It's a real shame I can't say, but I've been thinking maybe there are other ways I can help. I've noticed we source all our shirts through sites like eBay and Spock. I'm sure there's lots of students at our uni looking to get rid of old football shirts. I could set up a collection point in the student union for them to sell their unwanted shirts. I recently done a course in marketing, so I think I could apply these skills to generate interest. Let's have a look at Adam's response. What a great idea. You've got a new skill, you can put it to use, and we're in need of more stock. Come on, Joe, let's make it happen. So the big lesson here is new skills and ideas absolutely make a difference when it comes to the labour market. Joe's demonstrated the important ability to adapt, and by being flexible, he's managed to retain his value in changing market circumstances. We can see the dynamic here between the employer and the employee and working in harmony to make sure that relationship can continue and be successful. Adapt, grow, and reskill is the key lesson. No matter what career path you choose, you are always going to be in changeable circumstances. So the importance of continuing professional development is absolutely key. So we're going to focus in the labour market in a little bit more detail now. So just like the supply and demand of goods and services change, so does the supply and demand of workers or jobs as defined as the labour market. So what do we think would cause a change in business demand for labour? So there's some key items here in regards to this. First of all, we're going to look at the upside. So if lots of goods are being sold, naturally, we need more resources to support that healthy economic environment. Technical support may be required for all employees, things like training and upskilling. Government funding could come in to support business. Now, you may have seen, obviously, over the pandemic in the last 18 to 24 months, there's been a number of government initiatives to support business through the downturn, through furlough, through government grants, cuts in business rates. These are all things the government can do to manufacture the supply or need for jobs in the labour market. But let's look at the flip side. What could reduce a downturn in the labour market? Obviously, fewer demands for goods and fewer goods being sold. A dip in the supply and demand relationship. Salary costs have increased. And one of the big ones could become automated. As we move into more technologically advanced economy, we're seeing this in a number of situations. The most, I suppose, overt example is when you go to your local supermarket. 15 years ago, self-service checkouts didn't really exist, and now they're an absolute mainstay in every single supermarket, even some of the smaller ones. When tasks become automated, the labour market needs to flex, change, and reposition themselves to make sure it can remain strong and stable. So we're going to talk about something now called colleague value proposition, or CVP for short. We're going to fast forward 3 years. Adam's now graduated. He's been working his first job around a year, and he's seen a new opportunity at a different company and is considering making a move. Let's meet Sophie. Hi, I'm Sophie, Adam's manager. I think I've got a good idea about how we could keep him at the company. So we offer shares to some of our employees. A share is a piece of ownership in the business. If the business does well, the share will be worth more. It's a great way to get Adam deeply invested in our company. Let's have a look at the next task to discuss amongst ourselves. So if people think the value of Adam's shares will increase, what do we think is going to happen? Is it going to be A, demand for shares will increase? B, supply of shares will increase? Or C, demand for shares will decrease? This is an interesting one, and we're entering new territory in regards to the stock market. So if you selected A, then you're correct. As the business does well, the value of the shares increase, and so does demand to buy them. You can see that the law of supply and demand plays a role in the buying and selling of shares in the stock market as well. This is called stock market activity. So, a few years later, and Adam's shares have risen significantly, enough so that he could sell them and set up his own business. He's gathered lots of skills and knowledge and thinks now is the right time to go it alone. He planned to open a digital design agency and has found premises across the other side of town. Now we're going to stop and think here, and I do want to try and generate some responses from the comments, if you can do, please. But think about this. What should Adam do in regards to the premises he's found? I'm going to give you some options to consider. Just go for it. Fortune favours the brave after all. B, stick in his current role. After all, that would provide the most amount of financial security, wouldn't it? C, research existing competitors in the area and potential customer footfall. I'm going to pause here, and Holly, if you could monitor any comments that do come in, please do discuss this one and think this through. So as we wait, I'll read out the question again. So a few years later, Adam's shares have risen significantly, enough so that he could sell them and set up his own business. He's gathered lots of skills and knowledge and thinks now is the right time to go it alone. Plans to open a new design agency and has found premises. What should he do in regards to this? A, just go for it. B, stick with his current role, it's the most safest bet. Or C, research existing competitors in the area and customer footfall. So we'll just pause while we have a chat through and hopefully some comments will come through.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what comes through on this one.
This is one of the most difficult things regarding business decisions, is regarding knowing when the time is right to set up that business and make that leap.
I can sense the thinking going on.
If there's anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit who is very brave, you might be going for A.
So we've got something through, Johnny, again from North Chadderton, saying he should do C first to ensure the business is viable and then make a decision. He should show risk-taking abilities, but these must be balanced with research. Okay.
One of the things that I want to pick out from the comment you just said there, Holly, is the word risk, because we're going to focus on risk in a second. And this is a really key, important consideration when making any financial decision and making sure that money works for you. So let's see what Adam does. So ultimately, at the end of the day, there's no right answer. This is a difficult decision, but if Adam does decide to go for it, knowing there's a strong customer base and limited competitors may convince him it's a sensible decision and an acceptable risk. So the comments that came through absolutely align to what he's thinking is in this situation. So well done, and thank you for that contribution. So how do we assess risk? Now, every single day, your brain is making thousands of conscious and subconscious decisions, and all of those decisions are processed through the filter of risk. Whether it's a case of crossing a road at a certain point in time, what you're having for your dinner. These are all risk-based decisions. Now, some of them are more significant than others, and there are some key risk-based decisions that you'll make throughout your life and your career. So we're going to look at risk in a little bit more detail when it comes to making money work for yourself. So here's Adam. He's now met a partner, and he's expecting a family. So he's done his research, and the data shows a strong potential customer base. Now may be a good time to make the leap, but now more than ever, I have to consider the long term. What other things should I think about? Let's have a look. Well, ultimately, all the things in the pictures below, because they represent the economy as a whole. Now, there's three key components that will really help inform Adam's risk-based decision when it comes to the economy. So we're going to walk through these in turn. The first one we're going to have a look at is gross domestic product, otherwise known as GDP. So gross domestic product is currently tens of trillions of pounds. That's the amount of money that all people, businesses and the government spent or invested this past year. Adam can analyse the percentage the GDP changes each year, as this could affect his outgoings, such as business rates and rent. So I want to think specifically over the last 12 months. We obviously know there's a different economic environment going on at the minute because of the pandemic. So over the past year, do you think the United Kingdom's GDP has risen or fallen? If you want to just put risen or fallen in the comments, I'd be very grateful to get your opinions and your viewpoints. So if gross domestic product is currently tens of trillions of pounds, that's the amount of money that all people, businesses and the government spent or invested this past year. Over this past year, do we think the United Kingdom's GDP has risen or fallen? If you want to be really brave, you could always put a percentage increase or a percentage decrease next to your answer. We'll pause for a minute whilst the comments come through.
I can tell they're thinking about it. They're thinking hard.
So risen or fallen, what do we think?
Maybe they're unsure.
Another 10 seconds to see if any responses come through. I'm really keen to try and get your cue as opposed to presenting the information.
Oh, here we go. Have a comment in. GDP has fallen overall due to reduced economic activity during COVID. However, it's now recovering.
Okay. Thank you for that response. And I am conscious as well, there is a slight time delay on the live sessions between me posing the question and it landing with yourselves. So we'll try and pause a little bit longer as we go forward. But let's have a look at that analysis and that assessment, that comment that's come through. So GDP has actually fallen by 9.8% during the last year. It is now starting to recover, but obviously because of the pandemic and the economic situation that I've presented, it has caused a dent and a decrease in GDP. We are starting to see some slow signs of recovery. So GDP, gross domestic product, the first element in Adam's risk-based decision. So thinking about that, and he's starting to question himself, maybe now is not the right time to start a new business. What's the second element? Well, the second element we're going to look at in this risk-based formula is unemployment rate. So GDP is one sign that can show the strength of the economy, but let's also look at unemployment rate. This is the percentage of people who currently don't have jobs but are looking for work. So think, the unemployment rate will most likely A, rise when the economy is strong, B, fall when the economy is strong, C, stay the same no matter what. So if unemployment is the percentage of people who currently don't have jobs but are looking for work, how would the following situations affect that unemployment rate? Would it rise when the economy is strong, fall when the economy is strong, or stay the same no matter what? If you want to put A, B, or C within the comments box, we'll see if any answers come through. The unemployment rate is something that is often within the mainstream media and news and often reported on. One of the key pillars of the economy. Have a chat amongst your classroom.
We've got one comment through, Johnny. Saying
Say that again, Holly.
the saying B.
B. So fall when the economy is strong. Okay, let's have a look then. Absolutely spot on. So if you did select B or discuss that amongst your group, then you're absolutely correct. The unemployment rate falls when the economy is strong and growing. As businesses naturally perform well in a growing economy, they will likely hire more workers, and this therefore decreases the unemployment rate. So the second key element is that risk-based framework that Adam is considering in regards to starting his own business. Let's have a look at the final one, which is in regards to balancing inflation. So as employment rises and more people spend their wages, that might have a knock-on impact, that prices might rise. This is called inflation, and it can also be a sign of a strong economy. However, too much inflation could also damage an economy. So we have moderate inflation and what is known as hyperinflation. Let's have a look at the definition of each. So moderate inflation is up to 2% rise in prices each year. As people have more money to spend, they demand more goods and services. Businesses try to meet these needs by producing more, and prices can rise to help business try to slow the consumer demand. So it's a really important tipping and balancing point when it comes to inflation. Now, hyperinflation is if inflation rises too high and too fast. People can't afford what they need, and this is called hyperinflation. And it occurs when inflation goes above a massive 50%. This will reduce demand, and businesses may lose money, close, or lay people off. So it's decision time. So let's see what Adam's thinking now. We've got three elements to consider: GDP, unemployment rates, and inflation. In addition to this, he also has his broader personal circumstances. We've seen that he's recently starting a family. Okay, so this is all about balance and weighing up all the key elements to ensure my business has the best chance to thrive. These are my tips that I need to consider. So I need to assess the risk and opportunity. Is there a demand for my business in the local area? I need to analyse the economy. What factors are currently in play? Where is GDP at? Is it on an upward or downward trajectory? And why is this? What is the current rate of unemployment? What circumstances are impacting this? And this is particularly evident within my sector. And lastly, inflation. Is this in a state of flux or is it currently stable? So let's recap. We've been on quite a journey with Adam. So from taking a part-time hobby and turning it into a business during university days, employing his first member of staff, almost letting them go, through to graduation his first job. He's had lots of success, performing so well that his manager is so desperate to retain him. In doing so, he provided him share options in the business. It was a smart move to stay and then take them up on their offer, as they soon rose and allowed Adam to sell his stock and start his first digital design agency. Fast forward, he now has 3 offices across the country and employs nearly 500 members of staff, making his own significant contribution to the economy. All the while, he's been progressing through life, meeting a partner, getting married, buying his first home, and now starting a family. In the final part of this session with my colleague Holly, we're going to look at the strategies Adam used to protect his mental health and ensure financial well-being throughout his journey. This is also of paramount importance when it comes to making money work for you. So Holly, I'll hand over to you. Holly?
Right, off mute now. Yeah, thank you, Johnny. So I've got a big question for you all here, and I want to know your answer. Can money buy you happiness? What are your thoughts? What about you, Johnny? What do you think?
I think money can buy choice, which is a very different thing to happiness. I think it allows you to make different decisions than you would do without, an adequate amount of funding. But ultimately, it is an enabler, not a destination. So happiness is very much down to mindset, not that enablement.
Interesting answer. What about yourself, Michelle? Do you think money you have?
I really like what Johnny just said then. Not a destination. Yeah, I think it makes things a lot easier. We just had a comment through from North Chadderton. All the group believe money does buy you happiness. There we go.
Oh, interesting. Well, you know what? There is so much research and information out there that both supports what you're saying and also refutes it. You know, large group of people will say, yeah, of course it buys you happiness. And then the opposite will say, well, yeah, it depends on what that is, whether it's a journey or a destination. But it's fair to say that most of us, whatever we do, will drive towards happiness, and we tend to pull away from unhappiness. I think that's the one thing for sure. If we can just move on to the next slide. It's worth glancing at the University of London's Institute of Education report here that says that seeing friends and relatives is equivalent to a pay rise of £64,000 a year. Chatting to nice neighbours in the street is worth £37,000 a year. Look at this one, getting married is worth £70,000 a year. And the biggie in this research was excellent health is estimated to be worth £300,000 a year. So, you know, if we top that up, £451,000 a year, if we look at all those elements. So, you know what, thinking about this, I guess you could trade in your family, your friends, your neighbours and your health, and we can collect £451,000 a year. That's, you know, just short of £500,000. We could be so much richer, but actually we'd probably be so much poorer. Have a think about that. Okay, let's have a look at our well-being and our happiness and how they connect together. So some of you may have come across the wellbeing wheel previously. It's a holistic framework of that wellbeing is part of a number of different dimensions that we all have at different parts of our lives and so on. And generally, we'll look at how balanced that wheel is. It's safe to assume that nobody has a free ticket to life. We're not just going to be instantly happy just when we start earning money. It doesn't work like that. And for the next 50 years or more, we'll need to decide on a career, we'll need to get a job and earn money. But how do all of those elements link together? So if we start from financial well-being, which is obviously what we're here to talk about today, or financial health, it's keeping track of your spending, balancing your needs and your wants, managing a budget, knowing about credit and borrowing money and not getting into debt. We all have mental or what we call emotional well-being. So, you know, are we aware of our feelings and when we're feeling happy and sad and all those kind of other feelings? Are we able to tell people about our feelings, and then are we able to manage those feelings as well? If we think about social well-being, that's all about our relationships, whether that be with our peers at school or at college. That's about our relationships with friends outside of school and maybe our family and friends as well. We've also got physical well-being, so that's about anything to do with our physical activity. It could be to do with nutrition, exercise and hydration. There's a number of things that would go under there. Cultural well-being or physical well-being, being aware of our personal values and our belief systems, and whether we have any. Sometimes we don't have any. Our environmental well-being, well, we've probably heard quite a lot about this, haven't we, in the past 2 weeks with COP26. But thinking about yourself and your own kind of environment, you know, do you generally feel safe going to school and in your environment that you live in? Have you got control over your safety on a day-to-day basis? Thinking about that holistic well-being. And then our occupational well-being. So that might be, you know, are you happy at school or college? Have you got good friendships? Do you feel supported by your family? And are you confident to learn new skills? There's a whole number of things in there that make up our holistic well-being. And generally through life, we know that, you know, physically, we're probably going to accumulate some knocks, some breakages, some bruises and scratches and dents. Our social well-being, it's not always going to be tip-top and 100%. We're going to have relationship breakdowns, fallouts, frustrations, that kind of thing. Money health. Everyone worries about money. Everybody does, regardless of how much you earn, how much your parents earn, how much savings you've got, or your work situation. We're all going to worry about it at some point. Even if you win the lottery, you're going to worry about how you're going to spend it. So we're also buffeted psychologically and emotionally as well. It's not merely a case of, you know, going to the hospital and having the doctor remove the offending part. Mental health and well-being can be much more debilitating and significantly longer lasting than a broken bone. But that's something we're going to explore in a little while. So if we move on to the next slide, Johnny, there's a really, really important relationship between money and mental health, those two dimensions in that well-being wheel. Mental health and well-being is just like physical health. Everybody has it, and we all need to look after it. That's the key thing we think about here. But, you know, as we go through life, there's going to be a number of different pressures, such as family, friends, advertising. You know, we all see the advertising, whether it's online or on the television, that encourages to spend money. It's all there to encourage us to spend money, isn't it? And so they can affect how you spend your money and the choices that you make to spend that money, and that can affect others as well. So some of our choices are made depending on how cautious or carefree we are in ourselves and our mindset towards money. So sometimes that link between money and mental health results in this money worry cycle that we can see here. Worrying about money can have a big impact on your mental health, and it can be extremely stressful, worrying about money. And sometimes if it gets so stressful, you sometimes feel as though it's the only thing that you think about, and your mind isn't able to focus on anything else. It consumes everything. So like I said, it can feel very debilitating, and it can create the feeling of being stuck in that vicious circle, which it illustrates here, because it doesn't feel like you can change the situation at all. And it can start to impact on your well-being by affecting your thoughts, your feelings and your behaviours. So it's something we need to think about, and you can see Adam in the picture there thinking about, oh, what do I need to think about? You've seen in the previous story that Johnny was reading, Adam had to think about lots of big decisions, didn't he? And for some people that can have a real impact on their health and well-being, because we're all different. We're all different. Everybody experiences a huge variety of feelings, thoughts and emotions, as you know, as part of the normal life. But how and when we have those thoughts can be really different depending on who we are. So some of us can find them harder to cope with, and that's when it starts to turn into that worry cycle. So I think what we can gather and take from this is that knowing about money, how to manage it and stay in control of those finances, and all of the things that comes with that, it's an essential life skill, really. Learning how we'll support you and particularly when you get older. So I just wanted to take you through a number of statistics, not meant to worry you or scare you at all, but just to kind of give you a flavour of the, you know, the kind of bigness of what money and mental health are. So mental or emotional ill health can affect everyone and everywhere. It doesn't depend on how much money you've got or how happy you are. It can affect everyone. The statistics generally say that 1 in 4 adults experience a common mental health problem, such as anxiety or depression, in any given year. And when that comes to young people, that's generally under 25s, 1 in 6 young people are now struggling with their mental well-being. And actually, as we've heard, the pandemic and COVID is increasing those numbers all the time. 75% of mental health illnesses start before a person's 18th birthday. You may not recognise that at the point. And then something else, females are more likely than males to be affected by financial difficulties. That's 23% compared to 19%. And like I said, the pandemic is really taking its toll on mental well-being, and general levels are decreasing across the world. So it's something we do need to be very aware of and manage it as much as we can. Going on to the next slide. Thank you, Johnny. In summary, then, I'm going to leave you with top 5 tips, my top 5 tips in terms of managing your money and your well-being. And I'm going to go in decreasing order, actually, because I think number 1 is the most important. So starting with number 5, it's about stuff. It's about things. Stuff will bring you instant but short-lived happiness. It can also bring debt. So to squeeze more from your happiness pound, spend it on experiences. So experiences, I'm thinking about, you know, trips, gigs, special meals out with your friends, that kind of thing, as opposed to your material things such as gadgets and clothes. So talking about stuff, stop comparing yourself with what others have got. We tend to do that quite a lot, don't we? Because actually it's easier to compare stuff than it is experiences. So if we think about, I don't know, how many of you compare who's got the latest iPhone or the latest gadgets or whatever it is. We tend to compare, and it's not good for our health and well-being. Better still, save your cash and invest in relationships, otherwise known as spending more time with the people that you love. You can do that better with your cash. Number 2, here and now, is appreciating what you have right now rather than lusting over what you haven't got. So again, it's that stuff versus experience, which is going to give you the greatest happiness. And then my number one tip of all is your happiness rainbow. So above all, take care of your health and well-being on all of those dimensions of your health and well-being, not just 1 or 2 of them. It's really, really important. Now, I wanted to just end on final information slide in terms of if any of you do worry and feel like you want to speak to somebody and you're worried about money or other dimensions of your health and well-being, the first thing to do is find a trusted person to speak to. So that trusted person may be a parent, it may be a friend, it may be a carer, it may be a teacher. But actually, sometimes you might find it easier to speak to somebody that you don't know. So there are lots of different support lines and websites out there. And there's just a flavour of those here that we would recommend. You've got Mind, the mental health and mental health charity. You've got the Samaritans. You've got Young Minds, which particularly support young people. You've got Childline there, Sane, the Mental Health Foundation, and the Mix, which is another helpline for young people. So I'm going to leave it there and pass back over to Johnny. Hopefully that's given you a real flavour of the link between those 2 topics.
Fantastic, thank you, Holly. So hopefully we are now, have I got an echo? Apologies, I've got an echo somehow. So hopefully we've given you a good flavour in regards to following Adam on his journey from university life right through to family life and starting his own business. And Holly's give you a really good run in regards to some useful strategies in regards to the importance of your wellbeing wheel and the impact that financial and money management can have on you as an individual. We do have a short amount of time left. We're lucky to do so. We had some Monday session as well, so we can invite some questions in via the chat. Me and Holly are happy to stay on for the next 10 minutes or so and answer those questions. But Michelle, I'll hand back over to you to either facilitate that or close the session down.
Thanks very much, Johnny, and thank you both very much. Holly, that was a really excellent run through of thinking about mental health and well-being relating to finance. Definitely some good tips for grown-ups as well as students. Yeah, for sure. When I get some, if any questions do come in, I will in the next few minutes I'll read them up. But would it be okay to just ask? And you know, Johnny and Holly, you talked a little bit at the start about your backgrounds and what you're doing at the moment, but maybe you could share kind of your sort of top tips around finance and what you found difficult at sort of 16, 17, 18 and how you overcame that.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a first stab at that. I think one of the most important things is you don't necessarily recognise when you're younger that distinction between what you need and what you want. There's a tendency to be quite impulsive and like Holly said, you know, to get the latest gadget, iPad, iPhone, whatever it might be. And understanding about money and managing your credit score, particularly obviously post 18 in those early formative years of your financial well-being, say between 18 to 25, can have a significant impact later down the line in whether you are successful in buying your first home and taking a mortgage or hire purchasing your first car. And I would say sometimes you don't realise that importance until it's a little bit too late, and it can take time to build up your credit score and obviously act in a prudent way. So that's more of a, you know, an awareness piece. In regards to a top tip, I am very organised when it comes to my money and have been from a young age. You would expect that, I suppose, working in financial services for the last nearly 20 years. I have an Excel spreadsheet on my computer at home. I know everything that goes out each month. I know everything that comes in each month. And I can pretty much tell you what's in my account to the penny. So, you know, whether you need to be that extreme or not, I think understanding where you are and your financial position is a good behaviour to get into at a young age.
Fantastic. Yeah, Holly, can I ask you the same question? I'll just send you that.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to when I was around 16 years old and I had a Saturday job. It was in a shoe shop and I think I was earning about £1.20 an hour or something, which was kind of okay for that time. We're talking a while ago. But I know that my mindset and my philosophy at the time was very much live for the day. And you know, I just wanted the money to spend on stuff and things that I was talking about. That's all I was concerned about that time. I was more carefree than cautious, if you like. And if I look back at that now, it didn't particularly do me any favours, because I was always looking on a day-to-day basis of, right, what can I spend? How much have I got to spend today? I didn't really look at tomorrow and the future and, you know, what I needed to do to save. And so my advice would be, you know, if you tend to be more of that carefree attitude, balance it out a bit, just to look at balance. You know, I don't want to say to anybody, right, you must think really strictly about this, about what you're going to save, but just try to balance it out, because I think that may have stood in good stead for me, looking back.
Fantastic, thank you. We haven't had anything come in, but if anyone does have questions kind of on their mind a little bit afterwards, you can always chat to the Aldermore Group on socials, and also talk to the GMAX team on your GMAX and various other places. Just find us on the internet. But I'll close now. So I'll just say goodbye to everybody. Thank you very much to Johnny and Holly for sharing their presentation and the insight today, and thank you all for joining and for your comments and participation. We will share a session card with you and your teachers to learn more about the topic. There's a follow-up task that you can look at today about researching the economy. You can keep up to date, obviously, with all things Meet Your Future at gmax.co.uk. And thank you again for joining us. Have a lovely afternoon and weekend, everybody.
Thank you.